So I finish with the cleanse, right? 2 o'clock rolls around. I kind of take a nap for like 30 minutes. I got like an hour or something maybe. They come in at 2 o'clock and they wake me up. They take my blood and all that stuff, and they got the other half of the bottle, which rode with me on the bed, right? Like I had it sitting on my feet as I rode up the elevator and all, which was kind of just an ominous, like the bottle just looking at me like, that's right, bitch. You think you're done. You ain't even seen nothing yet, bitch. Bitch ass bitch, and I'm looking at this bottle, and it's kind of like, it became, what is it called? Anthropomorphic. Is that what the word? When an inanimate object takes on like a human form. Yeah. That bottle had words in my head, not out loud, because I didn't want them to think I was psych ward type material. But anyway, I get done with that. They come in 2 o'clock. I chug the rest of the crap, and I'm done with it. And then, it's whatever. Then you just become a fountain, basically. You're just a human fountain for a couple hours, and then everything's good. So I fall asleep. They get me up. They wake me up at, 7:45, 8 o'clock. And these two nurses are in there, and they're wearing all green. They're dressed alike, and they wake me up. They're like, how you doing? And they've got a bed outside, and no, they didn't. They took my bed. So they're like unhooking me from stuff and getting ready to roll me out the door. And I'm like, hey, what are we doing? And they're like, we're going for the colonoscopy. And I'm like, oh, I'm first. She's like, yeah, and all. And so they roll me in there. And the CRNA rolls in. He tells me what's going to happen. He said, we're going to put some propofol. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I'll get to see what Michael Jackson experienced with his milk, right? That he called it. And this is what killed him. I said, this can't be bad, or this can't be good either. And so he tells me, you're going to put the stuff in you. You'll fall right asleep. You'll wake right back up. It'll be like no time, expired or transpired, and we'll all be good. And so I'm talking to him and all this stuff, and doctor, I'd met him the day before, the gastro doctor, and he was really cool. And, I'm all hooked up. I'm laying on my side, he positioned me and all this stuff. He's like, now you wanted, he said, you wanted, anesthesia for this, right? And I'm like, that's a good one. That's pretty good. And all this. And then I started thinking, I'm like, do people do this without anesthesia? That's got to be uncomfortable, like I said before, I've had teeth pulled without Novocaine. I don't think that's the same thing. That's probably because I looked over on the counter, and this is like a pinky sized black tube, with all kinds of, and like it had like 10, 20, 30, I don't know if it was millimeters or what, but it had like distances on the tube so that they know how far they've shoved it up your ass, I guess. Because that's probably important, it's probably got like a red part of the tube. Don't go, it's kind of like your red line on your car. Don't go over this red line. Don't put it more than 60 inches or whatever in. Anyway, so they tell me about the propofol. The guy's like, hey, this is going to burn for just a couple seconds, and then you'll be out. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now, when he said burn, I didn't realize he was going to inject a Carolina Reaper and a Ghost Pepper into my arm, because that shit burned like a son of a bitch for at least 15 seconds. Like it was like I was making like visceral noises, like it hurt like bad. And at one point I said out loud in my pain, I was like, Michael Jackson is a freaking idiot. And I heard laughter. I don't know who said it. Sounded like a female. I don't know. And then within 2 seconds of saying that, I was out. And then bam, I'm woken back up and everything's cool. And I'm in like recovery in the bed, and they're wheeling me back to my room. And I was like, damn, it's crazy, insanely crazy what the medical community can do to you. It's crazy. I just wonder what would happen if we didn't have animals to test stuff on, because God, there's some crazy chemicals out there that they can put in your body. And I mean, it was like a 30, 45 minute process, and it literally felt like 1 second. Now, I get back to my room, and now I'm awaiting the results. And long story short, they come back in and they're like, you've got all these clots. There's no hereditary reason or genetic reason why you would have them. Best we can tell, there's no cancer. There's nothing wrong with your endoscopy or your colonoscopy. Everything looked fine. They said the only thing we can figure is that you have just developed a clotting disorder, which happens, although it doesn't typically happen with someone you're as young as you are, which they called me young like all weekend. I was like, I gotta tell you, I'm not young. I'm 40 something, but it's interesting to be called young. I guess medically I'm like a babe in the woods. So anyway, I get that done, and I'm cleared for that. So they've got me. They switch me off the heparin to oral blood thinners so that I can go home with oral blood thinners, and they're testing my blood. I get stuck, another half a dozen times, and they're testing it. It's doing everything it's supposed to do and all this stuff and all this crap. So long story short, the weird part about it was all the abdominal pain that I had the week before, it went away back on Monday. And yet I still was told to go to the ER stat. And, presumably saved my life. I don't know. I mean, those clots, if they go up into your heart, of course, that's bad. If they go up into your lung, if the embolism goes up in your lung, it can kill part of your heart, your lung and all that stuff and everything. But it's just weird that you can have all that stuff and the pain dissipate, and yet you still have it. So here I am. I'm back on this nonsense, so I'll be preparing more of this crap. I've got a few of these I've got to catch up on, but I figured a 4-part series and explanation of what in the hell's going on would be easier than trying to write it in 112 characters or whatever TikTok allows you to put. So this is my medical history for everybody. So now I'm on blood thinners for the next 6 months, and I get to see a hematologist here in the next couple weeks, and we'll see what happens as to whether or not I have to take them. Now, the only part of this whole problem that I see is the fact that I cannot tell you how many times a week I cut myself or bang myself up. I mean, I'm constantly welding, building, fixing, working on cars, building, woodworking. I'm constantly working on stuff. And I break things on my body and rip my flesh open all the time. And apparently now I bleed out if I do that. So that I got that to look forward. And then I asked the lady this morning, the internal medicine lady, I was like, so how do I get tattoos if I bleed? And she's like, ooh, I don't think you can. And I'm like, I'm not done. I've got things to do. I've got a lot more, I'm maybe like halfway close. I'm a little over halfway done with the plans I have for myself. I don't want to look like some circus freak, but I got a lot more coverage to take care of. So I'm not happy about those two things, but otherwise, all's well that ends well, because apparently I don't have cancer, and I don't have any kind of disease that they've found or anything. I just have a weird disorder that requires me to take eleutheria or whatever the hell the name of this blood thinner is. So that is my story. So I will get back tomorrow to ranting on nonsense, and we'll see you then. Have a nice Sunday. Hey, giddy.